In this cut of business stories, we're gonna look into the life of Ray Dalio and how we went from being a helper boy to being the greatest hedge fund manager of all time. Ray Dalio was born on 1st August 1949 in Queens, New York. His father, Marino Dalio, was a jazz musician and mother a homemaker. Growing up as a middle-class kid in Long Island, Ray was the only child to their parents, which led to him having a close relationship with them, especially his mother, which is why he always depended on her in his early age. Dalio always preferred to do things that interested him, rather than adhering to social stigma, and since high school was more about remembering things rather than actually learning something, Dalio lacked interest in the latter. Constantly aware of the limited time that he had left, Dalio switched his focus towards finance and investing. Though it seemed like a mere switch towards his field of interest, Dalio at that time didn't know that he was making one of the greatest decisions of his life. The first lessons. After figuring his interest towards finance and investing, Dalio now needed a peer group to learn about the same, kind of like a mentor. So, during his teens, Dalio would do a side job as a caddyist, which means a helper boy for the elite people who played golf, and the people that Dalio served had a career in investing. So, from then, Dalio would get ideas and techniques about investing in the market. The first ever investment made by Dalio was at the age of 12 for $300 in a company called Northeast Airlines, and usually people don't see returns in their first investment, but Dalio on the other hand made a 3x return on his investment because of a merger of the Northeast Airlines company. Since Dalio had his interest rooted in this, he decided to pursue finance as his bachelorette. The Harvard acceptance. From a person who had no interest in academics in high school to finding his stream of interest and also to excel in it to an extent where one gets admitted to an Ivy League institute is phenomenal. But Ray Dalio didn't get into an Ivy League institute. He got into the Ivy League institute, the Harvard University itself, which articulates his sheer interest in investing. After graduating from Harvard, Dalio took his first job at the prestigious New York Stock Exchange, where he stayed for some time. Followed by that, he took a job in a company known as Shearsons. But he had a falling out there as well. The funny story behind that would be Dalio punched his boss in the face in an argument. So now he had no choice but to leave. Though he left the place, he still had his strong connections with the people who worked there, as he was good at what he did. Not knowing what to do next, Dalio started to think whether to take his next sitting job with no risk or to go ahead and start a company of his own, which has always been his dream. This made Dalio to remind himself again of the limited time that he had left. The two-bedroom start. Dalio feared boredom and mediocrity more than he feared failure. So, as he stood in the crossroads, he chose to start his own company. As a result, in 1975, Bridgewater Associates was born. Having no financial aid to rent an office, Dalio ran his business from his two-bedroom apartment with just 2 employees. Though his beginnings were humble, Dalio hardly noticed it, for he loved what he did, and what once seemed like a dream had now become a reality. Eventually, Bridgewater started getting noticed in the Wall Street for its strategies, behind which was none other than Ray Dalio himself. The fall and rise. Boosted by the confidence of success over the 5 years since Bridgewater's inception, Dalio predicted that a Great Depression would hit the US economy in the 1980s, and based on this upcoming tragedy, he bet all his money. But did Dalio really knew what was coming? Well, it was quite the opposite. The US economy went on a straight boom for the next 18 years, such it had never seen before. Because of this horrendous error, Dalio lost everything. He had to let go of his employees whom he cared for most and cut down to only one person: himself. Though he touched rock bottom, it was one of the most humbling experiences for Dalio, where he said he learned the most important thing. In his own words, no matter how confident I was in making any bet, I could still be wrong. Well, to concede and say I was wrong is one thing, but to do it publicly, express his take on failures. But what he didn't know was, this humility was going to make him the greatest hedge fund founders of all time. After 1980, Bridgewater Associates gradually began to grow. By 1995, it had over 42 employees and was managing an enormous $4 billion. The success rate of Bridgewater Associates was so high that within 5 years, the $4 billion grew to many multiples to $32 billion. Though he had an enormous success, Dalio expressed that the face of challenges didn't change, it just manifested itself in many different ways. When asked about his ideology, Dalio exclaims that his fundamental thing is whether you're an Olympic athlete or a beginner, the pain remains the same. We have all got to come through it, says Dalio. To have a fair comparison with the leading tech giants, in the year 2010, Bridgewater funds rose by 45% or $15 billion, which is more than the profits of Google, Amazon, and Yahoo combined. By 2013, Bridgewater Associates had grown to 1,400 employees, managing a fund of $150 billion, which made Dalio have a net worth of an unbelievable $18.6 billion by 2020. Pass it on. After having spent 4 decades with his company Bridgewater Associates, Dalio relinquished from his role as CEO to impart himself in charitable works. On top of that, Dalio also believed in passing on the lessons that he had learned through hardships and experience over the years to others. So he published his books, Principles, which is considered by many as both a personal and career guidance. He also started a YouTube channel to share his ideas. As of 2020, he has given almost $1 billion to charity and has also signed the Giving Pledge to give over 50% of his wealth to charity. Now, in his late 70s, Dalio still looks back at the great tragedy that he went through when he was 19 years old. Losing his mother at a young age, especially when he least expected it, taught him a hard-hitting truth about life. The truth which brought about a paradigm shift and helped him whenever he touched rock bottom. And what was that truth? Well, I guess I'll leave that to you.